It's been a few days since Trump shocked the world and imposed harsh sanctions on Russian oil companies, Lukoil and Rostov, and also sanctions against any financial institutions that help in moving Russian oil around or finance or whatever. We covered Putin's reaction in last video, but today I wanted to just update you and quickly just take a look at what's coming out of Lavrov and Kirill Dmitriev, who is the envoy, the special financial envoy from Russia to America. And just as an FYI as to who this guy is, he went to Stanford and he is a former Goldman Sachs partner. So he knows America, he knows the players, he knows all the people at the top of our financial system very well. So he's no stranger to American politics and how we do things. So let's take a look at what Lavrov has been up to the last few days. This came out today. Lavrov playing dumb with claims that Russia opened to Trump's Ukraine peace plan, which we know is a bunch of garbage. He does this all the time. Lavrov's statements about the Kremlin's supposed readiness for peace agreements are part of a manipulative scenario designed to create the illusion of Russian diplomatic activity. We know that that's nonsense. Then you have another one here, which is just as cynical, if not even more so, where this came out yesterday. Russian Foreign Minister cynically claims that Russia is not violating the Budapest Memorandum, which is just insane, from 1994. Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov has stated that Moscow does not consider its aggression against Ukraine to be a violation of the Budapest Memorandum. According to Lavrov, in an interview that he did for a Hungarian YouTube channel called Ultrahang, he was quoted that says that the memorandum states that Ukraine, like other former Soviet republics that gave up nuclear weapons, would receive guarantees from nuclear powers to non-nuclear states. That's all. That's it. These guarantees say that nuclear weapons will not be used against non-nuclear states, that the parties are to the Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. So Lavrov is just justifying and saying that's it. This agreement didn't cover anything else, and that's just not true. He is just gaslighting the world. Lavrov justified Russia's actions by claiming that alongside the Budapest Memorandum, the same party signed a declaration committing to the OSCE principles, including minority rights, democracy, and freedom of speech. He asserts that these obligations were violated by Kyiv. For reference, the Memorandum on Security Assurances in connection with Ukraine's accession to the treaty was signed on December 5th, 1994. In its text, it states that Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States reaffirm their commitment to respect the independence and sovereignty and the existing borders of Ukraine. They also pledged to refrain from the threat of use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of Ukraine, and that none of their weapons will ever be used against Ukraine except for in self-defense or otherwise in accordance of the Charter of the United Nations. So, I mean, there you have it. You know, it's in plain black and white, and Lavrov is just flat out lying. So, moving ahead, he did an interview. This again came out today, and he's trying to flip the script here. I'm just going to play a few minutes of this, or a minute or so, and you can get a flavor for what he's talking about here. Yep.
About this. It is not for territories for us. It is about the people who have been living on those lands for centuries. The reason is very simple. We need a buffer zone because Ukrainians continue shelling, bombing, droning Russian including the territories which never were challenged by anybody. The new territories which you mentioned, they are not actually new territories. They are historic Russian territories. Yes, after the Soviet Union disappeared, this was left inside the former Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, and there was no thought, that this Slavic republic could have leadership which would go the way the Nazis went before World War II.
So what he's saying there is that because they wanted to look towards the West instead of the East, we now can change our mind and take it. And they don't have the integrity. They want us to, they should stop bombing the territory that we claim is ours because it's ours because we say so, which is just nonsense. He just continues this. So he flips the script here, Russian script on Ukraine, shockwaves from DC to Kyiv. Putin and Russia believe, I mean, they still believe what we've been talking about for months, that they're entitled to this land and that Ukraine shouldn't exist. You know, it's all a made up story that Putin invented to change history. And this is why we are where we are, and that Ukraine is in this war. Okay, so let's move on now to the other player here. And this also just came out today, and that banner should go away in a second. Russia, you can see here, Russia's latest attempt. I hate these pop-ups. Russia's latest attempt to woo U.S. reeks of desperation. Okay, here we go. Kirill Dmitriev, this is the guy I was talking about, who was a Goldman Sachs partner at one point and graduated from Stanford. The Kremlin's top economic envoy arrived in the United States with holes in his sails and no wind to push him forward. Oof, that's brutal. He was a man on a desperate mission. A phone call between Lavrov and Marco Rubio had not gone well. The meeting between Vladimir and Donald Trump, expected to take place within 2 weeks, was shelved. The U.S. president had finally lost patience with Putin and imposed, crippling sanctions, with relations between Moscow and Washington at all-time low since Mr. Trump took office. Mr. Dmitriev was dispatched to Miami and Washington to rescue them. The Russian, who was educated at Stanford, worked on Wall Street, was there to prove Moscow was committed to constructive dialogue. We know that that's not true. His business trip reeked of desperation. The fact that Putin dispatched Kirill to Washington within minutes of the U.S. sanctioning Lukoil and Rosneft shows just how rattled Putin is, said William Browder, the American guy who is responsible for the Magnitsky Act. One of Putin's arch enemies, actually. Going after the oil is a direct hit in the parlance of a battleship. Russian sources cited a report by AFP claiming that Mr. Dmitriev held talks with Trump officials on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But the president, Mr. Rubio, and Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, were all on a tour of Asia, so that he couldn't have met with anybody but Witkoff. That only left Witkoff to talk to, who really is not the man for this. However, his mission appeared to have been downgraded when Rubio was handed responsibility. Anyway, so nothing got done. I mean, that's the bottom line. And it just looked desperate on Russia's part and Dmitriev's part. And then yesterday on the Sunday shows, they had Scott Bessent, U.S. Treasury chief, calls Russian envoy Kirill a propagandist and said sanctions are crippling Moscow's economy. And Moscow and Kirill and all these guys are like, oh no, that's not affecting our economy at all. If anything, this actually came right out of Kirill, that no, it's all it's going to do is increase gas prices in America. It's not going to affect us at all. Which we know, if you watch anything, is you have to wait 2-3 days now in line to get gas in Russia and various parts of Russia. The economy is falling apart. And he has no money. He can't print money. He's really in trouble over there. And I've even seen some articles for the first time that are talking about that the whole thing could collapse and Putin could be out. And, if it happens, it's going to happen fast. It's usually in those types of situations, you don't have 2 or 3 weeks where it takes time and, yada, yada. Somebody comes in, usually kill the dictator, and the new government is there, literally overnight. So they are in trouble. When CBS host Margaret Brennan asked whether Dmitriev's presence in the U.S. was connected to lifting sanctions, Bessent replied that the envoy's statements carried no credibility. What do you think is going to happen to him if he goes back home and says on TV, this is terrible. President Trump just did the right thing. This is the maximum pressure campaign that's going to work. Of course, he's going to say what the Kremlin wants, Besson says. Besson added that Russia oil revenues had already fallen 20% year over year and could drop another 20 to 30% as the sanctions tighten. That was before the sanctions, by the way. So, and that all fits into the numbers that we talked about in the last video. They have immunized their economy, their oil earnings are collapsing. And as I said, let's see what happens. It's not good for Russia at all. And then the windup of this whole thing is that U.S. could hit Russia with even more sanctions over the Ukraine war. But Trump also wants Europe to increase the pressure. And Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump administration has prepared additional sanctions it could use to target key areas of the Russian economy if President Putin continues to delay ending Moscow's war. U.S. officials have also told European counterparts that they support the EU using frozen Russian assets to buy U.S. weapons for Kyiv, and Washington has held nascent internal conversations about leveraging Russian assets held in the U.S. to support Ukraine's war effort, two officials have said. While it's not clear whether Washington will actually carry out any of these moves, basically, Trump wants Europe to move. He wants Europe to make the big decision, and then go maybe come along with this after that. It's from what I read from this and a couple other articles. So there we have it. This is an update to what happened in Russia, and coming later this week, I'm going to be talking about what's happening with the Mandami election and the damage that this is going to do to the Democrats and the Democratic Party. This is a nuclear bomb, and it's not just because he's Muslim or this and that. This is really going to change the entire landscape for the Democrats, because they're electing a socialist, and you have a number of people who are moving far left and left, especially younger voters, and the center of the party, which is the majority, and somebody like me who's a centrist isn't going to want to go along, and is certainly not going to support the policies that are going to want to come out of this party. So I think that the Democrats are in serious danger, and we'll go over all that in the next video or two. There's so much content to go over. I think I'm actually going to spread it into 2 or 3 separate videos. So look forward to that later in the week. In the meantime, I may come on with another update on some type of news that's going on, and have a good day. Thank you. Remember, please like and subscribe. It really makes a difference to the channel, so we can continue to grow it and add more people to it, and I can reach more people. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.